Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Fairfield Township Butler County Community Improvement Corporation quarterly meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Goins.
Present.
Mr. Oler.
Present.
Mr. Philpott.
Present.
Trustee McAbey.
Here.
Trustee Harkemeyer. Here. Trustee Birding.
Present.
Mrs. Vonderhaar. Present. Ms. Schultz. Present.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good job, guys. First item on the agenda is I'd just like to welcome two new members to the CIC. We have Greg Philpott. He's currently the president of the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission. And we also have Mr. Oler. He is the president of Fairfield Township Zoning Appeals Board. Last meeting, we voted to appoint the presidents of both of these boards to be a part of the CIC. And this is the first meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
So for the minutes, we have a motion. Could I have a motion to approve the CIC meeting minutes from November 8th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Have a roll?
Mr. Goins.
Yes.
Mr. Oler.
Abstain.
Mr. Philpott.
Abstain.
Trustee McAbey.
Yes.
Trustee Harkemeyer.
Yes.
Trustee Birding.
Yes.
Mrs. Vonderhaar. Yes. Mrs. Schultz. Yes.
First item, new business. We have setting meeting dates for the CIC meeting. We typically have them quarterly. I think since we have a couple members that don't currently sit on this board, we try to make them just set them now. Does anybody have any comments on that?
We typically have them before a trustee meeting. So the next quarterly meeting would probably be in June. So we have June 13th. The next one would be September, so September 12th. And then December would be the next one, which would be December 12th. I personally have a conflict on June 13th, but I don't want to hold the board up from having their CIC meeting that day. Any other thoughts or questions?
I'm fine with those dates.
Same.
I'm good with those dates.
And maybe we'll do 6:30.
I think that's a good idea.
6:30.
6:30 for the
Yes.
following
Just in
meetings.
case.
I don't think they're all here for the CIC meeting tonight.
Even though it's compelling and
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, I think 6:30 at those dates.
Make a motion to set the dates for those dates at 6:30.
A second.
Mr. Goins.
Yes.
Mr. Oler.
Yes.
Mr. Philpott.
Yes.
Trustee McAbey.
Yes.
Trustee Harkemeyer.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Birding.
Yes.
Mrs. Vonderhaar.
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz. Yes.
Next item, new business, is to transfer Thule parcel to the CIC. I know the agenda says Pater. I assure you it's Thule. I do need a motion for the CIC to accept the property from the land bank. The property is 1926 Tooley.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Mr. Oler?
Yes.
Mr. Philpott?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Vonderhaar?
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz? Yes.
All right, brief land bank update. They're currently, the land bank's currently under contract with the demolition on 2025 Milton, 2026 Exeter, and the adjacent 9 lots. It's well underway. So, I would imagine next meeting, we might be getting that property transferred to us. Habitat for Humanity, we did transfer the properties 2123 Parkamo and 2125 Parkamo Avenue to Habitat for Humanity. They have plans to build single-family homes on both of those lots. The MOA with Neighborhood Housing Services. Neighborhood Housing Services, they do also construct single-family homes. They came in and met with us, I think it was in November. We just would like to sign an official MOA with them just to continue momentum. So we would need a motion for the president of this board, or the president of the CIC, to sign that document. And later in the regular meeting, we're going to need an additional motion to allow the administrator to sign that document as well.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Goins? Oh, I'm sorry.
So, is this going to be approved by the law director or,
I have reviewed it and approved it.
okay? Thank you.
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Mr. Oler?
Yes.
Mr. Philpott?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Vonderhaar? Yes. Ms. Schultz? Yes. Everyone should have seen a financial update sitting on their packet. Really not much to report. In the trustee meeting, I am going to ask for another $5,000 to add to the CIC. We have a outstanding bill to Mr. Baston for the financial statement preparation and outstanding property tax bills that need paid. The last $5,000 lasted us about a year and a half, so that should do us for a little while. And that's all I have.
You've already paid the insurance for the year.
Yes.
Do we need to add the 2 new members to that?
Yes, I am working on that currently.
All right, this time, public comments. I don't believe we had anyone sign up for public comments for the CIC. All right, any board comments?
Just welcome to 2 new members. Thank you for volunteering your time to sit on this board and give your input. I know you're both well qualified for your extensive volunteer work on the various zoning boards, so thank you.
Well,
Volunteer, you get twice as much money for this as you do your others.
yeah, that's exactly. On the wrong side of the desk.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. so
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Mr. Oler?
Yes.
Mr. Philpott?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Vonderhaar?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz? Yes. We are adjourned at 7:08.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
See you in 3 months.
All right, good evening. It's still Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, and it's 7:09 PM. I now call the Fairfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order. Mr. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Present.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Here.
Trustee McAbey?
Here.
Okay, we have the first item on the agenda is presentations. Mrs. Bondahar?
Resolution number 2335, authorizing the appointment of full-time police officer Brendan F. Podorf, who is certified by Ohio Peace Officers Training Council at an hourly rate of $27.02 with a 12-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee
Yes,
Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that motion is adopted. Next motion, next resolution.
Resolution 2336, authorizing the appointment of full-time police officer David J. Caldwell, who is certified by Ohio Peace Officers Training Council at an hourly rate of $27.02 with a 12-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. Chief Chapali?
David, Brandon, can you come up to the podium, please? Good evening. I'm Bob Schwanderhaar. Family and friends who are candidates, thank you for being here tonight on this very special occasion, the swearing-in ceremony of David Caldwell and Brendan Podorf to be members of the Fairfield Township Police Department. Prior to that, I would like to introduce members of our police department. Captain Doug Lanier is not present. He is in sunny Arizona, right as we speak. Sergeant Brandon McCroskey, standing behind us here. He is the investigation supervisor. Sergeant John Vanderwright, standing to your left there. He is the administrator supervisor. We also have Sergeant Matt Miller, dressed in the green, looks like a tree back there. He is our afternoon shift supervisor. He's a member of the SWAT team, and that's why he is dressed in green today, because he's in training. Additionally, I don't want to miss anybody. I think I saw Officer Tess Flynn. Are you here? Okay, there she is. And Cameron Wood. Am I missing anybody else? Detective Ryan, Officer Ryan Roach, and Detective Rui Dutra. Officer Roach is a midnight officer for our department. As you're aware, our candidates go through a thorough vetting process, which includes submitting a lengthy application, a panel interview, a polygraph examination, a thorough background investigation, a second interview with Captain Lanier and myself, a medical examination, a drug test, and a psychological evaluation. David and Brendan passed all the components, and they have provided their bios, which Sergeant McCroskey will read to you at this point in time.
David Caldwell was born in the city of Cincinnati and grew up in Union Township in Claremont County until he graduated from Amelia High School. After he graduated from Amelia High School, he attended the University of Cincinnati, where he studied criminal justice. After 3 years, he earned his bachelor's degree. He then enlisted in the United States Army as an infantryman and was stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, and then married his wife, Madison, in December of 2018. When his time in the military concluded, he moved back to Ohio and has worked in the security field, working at least the last 3 years in Tri-Health as the protective services officer. In October 2021, he was blessed with his son, Elias, who he says has been one of the best things that ever happened to him, and he enjoys and watches him grow every day. While still working full-time at Tri-Health at night, he attended the police academy during the day at Scarlet Oaks. He graduated the police academy in September 2022, and he enjoys spending his free time with his wife, his son, who is taking him on new adventures. He also enjoys the outdoors, going hiking, playing golf, and playing paintball. He enjoys going to hockey and baseball games with friends and family and is excited to join our team at the Fairfield Township Police Department. Brendan Podorf lived in Ohio for most of his life. He's the youngest of 3 siblings. He grew up in the city of Monroe and went to Monroe High School for his education until finishing his last 2 years at Butler Tech, D. Russell Lee. And while he was in school, he enjoyed playing soccer at various select and high school teams. He's currently living in the city of Lebanon with his fiancee, Katie, and their 2 dogs. He went to Butler Tech Adult Career Center, where he completed his Peace Officer Training Academy. He also, furthering his education is important to him, and he is currently enrolled at Sinclair Community College for an IT degree. This degree will eventually be in cybersecurity. After acquiring his OPATA certification, he worked with the Kettering Health Police Department for approximately 2 years and several months for the City of Lebanon Police Department in Warren County. When not at work, some of his hobbies include running, watching any kind of comedy movie, and graphic design. Congratulations.
At this time, Mr. Michael Birding, the board chair, will swear you in, and after the swearing-in ceremony, the candidates will be provided time to introduce their families and friends, say a few words. Family and friends will also be provided time to take photos afterwards. You will leave. Go down.
Okay, you guys can angle a little bit. So I can put you- just so that your families can see you as well, all right?
Sure.
Okay. I state your name,
Brendan Podorf,
I, David Caldwell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will serve my department with respect and dignity,
that I will serve in my department with respect and dignity,
serve and protect the citizens of Fairfield Township
serve and protect the citizens of Fairfield Township
with compassion, courage, and integrity,
with compassion, courage, and integrity,
and uphold the Constitution of the United States,
and uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the rules and regulations of Fairfield Township Police Department,
and the rules and regulations of Fairfield Township Police Department,
and I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
do the duties of Township Police Officer and Township Constable
do the duties of Township Police Officer and Township Constable
for the Township of Fairfield
for the Township of Fairfield
in Butler County,
in Butler County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio,
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations.
I'm David Caldwell. My family's actually back there in the back corner there. My wife sitting there. Unfortunately, my son had to be taken out, being a little too rowdy. So yeah, he's been my whole world, been my motivation to go through the academy. So I'm glad to be where I'm at now today.
I'm Brennan. My family is scattered in the middle. My fiance Katie, my dad, mom, stepmom Lena, and soon to be stepdad James. Again, with my family, they've been a huge support getting me to this step, and I'm very excited to start the journey.
You may sit. In a few minutes, Chief Thomas will be, after the resolutions are read, will be up here. Subsequent to that, we will have refreshments and light snacks for the family and friends after the ceremony at the fire department next door. We'll wait after the fire guys are sworn in to take photos.
Okay, Ms. Von Hart, can we have the next resolutions, please?
Resolution 2337, authorizing the appointment of full-time firefighter paramedic Ian Shoemaker to the Fairfield Township Fire Department at an hourly rate of $19.25 on a 24, 48-hour shift with a 6-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
and that resolution is adopted. Next resolution, please.
Resolution 2338, authorizing the appointment of full-time firefighter EMT Jason Eggleston to the Fairfield Township Fire Department at an hourly rate of $18.25 on a 24/48 shift with a 6-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted.
Resolution 2339, authorizing the appointment of full-time firefighter EMT Stephen Kramer to the Fairfield Township Fire Department at an hourly rate of $18.25 on a 24/48 shift with a 6-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. Can I have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2340, authorizing the appointment of full-time firefighter EMT Larry Reynolds to the Fairfield Township Fire Department at an hourly rate of $18.25 on a 24/48 shift with a 6-month probationary period.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
and that resolution is adopted. Chief Thomas?
So this is a very special occasion for these gentlemen, but it's even more special for the department as the trustees have allowed us to continue the growth and add additional full-time staff to help us manage the ever-increasing call volume that we are experiencing. It was unique for us to be able to hire from inside. We like to reward our longtime employees, and some of the gentlemen that are standing here in front of you have a long service history with Fairfield Township, starting back when there was volunteers, and I believe at least one of them was in the Explorer program for a bit. They're pointing fingers, aren't they? But ironically, the youngest is the most highly certified out of the group. He's the paramedic. But one of the things that we did when we hired these gentlemen in our interview process was look for maturity. We have a very young department. We have, and you'll hear us later, we're going to hire another 4 part-time employees that have 0 experience. So we're glad to add these gentlemen that have a little bit more experience, and there's a little bit of gray hair mixed in for those that have hair. But it's been a real pleasure working with them as part-time employees, and I look forward to them doing a terrific job as full-time employees. So welcome aboard, gentlemen. Mr. Burning will swear you in, and then after the swearing in, we will do a badge pinning ceremony. If you just turn around and hand your helmets to the trustees, please. They will award them to you after you get sworn in.
I'll be over here. Okay. So you need to raise your right hand. How you going to do that?
Failed this test. We will revisit the vote.
Okay, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jason Agassiz,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the position of, state your position,
of the position of firefighter AMT
for Fairfield Township,
for Fairfield Township,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
protect, preserve, and defend
protect, serve, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and the rules and regulations of Fairfield Township,
and the rules and regulations of Fairfield Township.
and I solemnly swear to abide by
I solemnly swear to abide by
and enforce the rules,
and enforce the rules,
mission, vision, and values
mission, vision, and values
of the fire department.
of the fire department.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
So one of the traditions of the fire service is a pinning ceremony where they get their badge pinned on. And each of them has selected somebody very important to them to do their pinning. So Ian, start with you. Introduce whoever's going to pin.
Tonight I have my dad pinning me. If he wants to come up.
Don't scream in it.
I'm Steve Kramer. My wife and daughter will be pinning.
I'm Jason. My wife Samantha's gonna. I'm Larry. My wife Melissa will be paying me.
Thank you, gentlemen. And that concludes our swearing in ceremonies.
Let's do a group photo in the front.
So over by the flag, if we could have the firefighters and the police officers, we'll get some pictures with the Board of Trustees. Family members, you're encouraged to step up there and get closer and take photos. We'll try for one big group photo and then we'll split it up. you want to? You want to do individual photos for the trustees?
It's up to you, it's up to them. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Starting tomorrow, right? It's actually not as poofy as it normally is, so I'm not sure what happened there. So, all right, folks. As Chief Jabali mentioned earlier, we have refreshments set up across the driveway at the firehouse. So normally we release all the family members and all the new hired to go over there because nobody wants to stay and play with us.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay for the meeting.
Might be.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the public hearing. Case FTZC 23-1C, text amendment of the Fairfield Township zoning resolution initiated by the Fairfield Township trustees. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Here.
Okay, presentations regarding the text amendment. Mr. Goins?
Good evening. So tonight we're here to consider the proposed text amendments to the Fairfield Township zoning resolution. If you can go to the next slide, Julie, and keep going. Okay, so first I just wanted to provide a little bit of a background. In 2021, Fairfield Township zoning department held 4 public focus group meetings where items were discussed relevant to parking of commercial and recreational vehicles. In November 2022, a summary report of the focus group was provided to the Zoning Commission and to the Board of Trustees. Also in November 2022, the Zoning Commission reviewed the report and agreed upon 3 general recommendations. On January 23, Fairfield Township Board of Trustees initiated the amendment process to the zoning resolution. What are the text amendments? So the description of the text amendments, in general, there's changes recommended for permitted accessory building height. The intent for these changes is to allow taller accessory buildings, to allow larger recreational or commercial vehicles to be parked indoors. Some of the rules associated with those amendments is to continue to have the 5-foot minimum and rear yard setback for all accessory buildings under 15 foot in height, and require them to meet setback requirements associated with principally permitted buildings. Also remove more of a kind of a housekeeping piece, as we removed repetitive language that was currently located in every residential zoning district and consolidated it into one section of the zoning resolution. The second.
I'm sorry, you want to have questions as we go, or you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, let's get through this, and then we can have specific questions if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so the final one was, the second main change was to clearly state the allowable time frame for prepping and loading boats and RVs in driveways. The zoning commission agreed that 72 hours within a 30-day period seemed adequate. The intent for this is to clarify how long someone can have a recreational vehicle on their property. Currently, the zoning department allows a little leeway, a little bit of time for people prepping. We just wanted it in writing. The third one is to edit commercial. County planning staff recommended approval of the language, but they also to add language that's relevant to accessory structures. They specifically said they would like it to state accessory structures cannot be built within easements, language specific to that in the zoning resolution. So, redundant statement. As I mentioned here, the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission recommended.
Now, me, it's the main part. 15 to 20 foot height, it could be setting parallel to the house. It was not
Correct.
Behind in the backyard like a.
It would have to meet side and rear yard setback requirements. So it would be pulled back further from property lines.
I just wonder how that's going to look if a house is already built within 5 or 10 feet. If they're already using all the lot and will be room for one, right? Can they still go to the backyard?
Sure, yeah. So with the accessory buildings, yeah, they can be built in the backyard. They can be built in the backyard, but they'll just have to meet rear setback requirements. So if there's space for that, they can build it there. If the house was constructed at the minimum setback limits,
Right.
there wouldn't be space
So if it was.
for a taller building. If they could demonstrate a hardship. Correct. Yeah. So we're not changing any rules associated with buildings that would be under that 15 foot, but this would be those taller buildings.
And it says 15 to 20 feet, so really no bigger than 20, no higher than 20 feet.
Correct.
Is there any, and maybe it's already in there about how and what the buildings are built out of? Nothing?
There's nothing in our zoning resolution for
It doesn't talk
exterior
about-
materials for those. No.
But those would have to meet building codes because they need a permit to build the structure, and they would have to meet building codes.
Yeah, they
Already
would.
set.
Yeah, for a building, any building over 200 square foot has to get a building permit. So they'd have to meet building codes.
But if it was less than that, I mean, you could build a whatever building. And the neighbors would just be too bad if the neighbors don't like it.
And that's currently how it is.
Yeah, with the smaller buildings.
Mhm.
And those, the purpose of this is to accommodate those large RVs, maybe?
That's the intent of it.
Because it should be hard to get a dump truck or a tractor, semi-tractor into one of those with it. Somebody will try, I'm sure. And the 72 hours, that can be 3 days in a row for the time frame.
Mhm.
There's no way we're gonna measure whether they do three days now, 3 days later. But what we're trying to, again, accommodate is give them time to get their boat ready, get their camper ready, and then get it ready for storage.
Right. And typically with complaints, we don't have people concerned with people prepping,
That's when they're set
Typically.
the whole time.
but sometimes we do. But,
Right.
so that will allow those people to comfortably prep without having to deal with the zoning department.
I think I don't know if we're gonna have public discussion now, is that what we're gonna do?
I have a question first.
Oh, okay.
I was just waiting for you to have your questions answered
I was
first.
just trying to get a picture of what that looks like, you know, as far as where that next structure could go. But ideally, it could go right inside the house. It could be that in the front yard or in the side yard. It could, as
Well-
long as it meets the setbacks of the regular house, it could be right there.
So it couldn't be in the front yard. So accessory buildings are not permitted in the front yard. Typically, they could put it in the side yard if it met side setback requirements. They'd have to have a large side yard. Yeah.
And is there any restriction to what utilities you can have in this building? Just
No, they can't be used for residential purposes. People can't live in them. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee McAfee. The question I have is about the item number 2. So it only pertains to 72 hours.
Meaning that, just be on the front yard on a paved surface. So this is just an addition to that language. So this provides prepping.
And just to be clear, if someone has an issue with the law, it's a zoning.
That's correct.
Right.
If their
We don't
problem
want-
is,
we
if
don't
their
want our
problem,
police department
if the problem is
bothered.
just the parking of the RV, then yeah.
Yes. The police department doesn't need to be involved in zoning issues. It's
Correct.
the zoning department that handles that.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure the public knows that.
Sure.
Unless it escalates.
Well, then it's a domestic disturbance. That's something different.
So again, following up on that, so the accessory building has to have a paved surface?
Accessory building?
Yeah, I mean, so I build this 20-foot high building, I'm gonna put my RV in it, but it's not on a paved surface.
No, not necessarily.
But if it's outside, it has to meet all those other requirements and be on a paved surface.
Correct.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, are there any questions from the public on this?
Anybody who would like to testify in this public hearing, please stand and raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Okay, if you could, an address for the record, and then ask your question.
I just have a quick question about the,
Yeah, if you could, again, state your name for, we can put it in minutes.
2711 Collinsville Road.
Okay.
I noticed it said 15 to
20.
20 feet. He's over here. Almost kind of inside.
Good. Philip Drew, 2711 Tollersville Road, Hamilton, Ohio, Fairfield Township. 54 years in the township. I seen where it said 15 to 20 feet.
of building height, that's at the peak, correct?
No, it's not correct. So building height, as it's defined in the zoning resolution, for a flat roof, it would be the top of the building if it was a flat roof. If it's a pitched roof, it is considered the average height from the peak to the gutter line.
Okay.
That's how building height's defined in the zoning resolution.
Okay, and then what designates the difference between 15 and 20 feet? In other words, is it building size, like square footage is only allowed 15 feet and more square footage is 20 feet?
Preference of the applicant. If you want a building that's taller than 15 feet, that's what you would apply for. So I don't understand the question, I guess.
Well, I don't understand the designation between 15 to 20 feet.
I think what the zoning says, any buildings in that between
Range.
15 and 20 feet
Okay.
fall under this.
Because the old language was 21 feet, correct?
Back in 2008, there may have been a residential district that had 20 feet.
The last one I seen, I'll be
But
honest.
I don't know of a 20, I don't know of a 21 foot.
The last one I had seen was 21 foot. Last one I paid attention to. So my question was the 15 to 20 foot. I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, the 15 and 20, you're not talking about 15 at the gutter and 20 at the peak. You're talking about, I could build it up to 20 feet, and based on what you just said, the peak could actually be higher than that.
That's correct.
I understand that now perfectly. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Drew.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to speak about this? All right, you would like to speak on behalf on this matter?
No, not on this matter.
Oh, on something else? Okay, great. If there's no other comments from the board on this, on the zoning case, I move that we adjourn the public hearing.
Second?
Any other questions or comments? We do have a resolution later in the trustee meeting business. Mrs. Vonderhaar, is that you or is that
Compensation study.
compensation study? Okay, so we did talk about compensation study at our last meeting, so I think Mr. Goins was going to talk about what our options are.
Yep. Thank you. So since our last meeting, I reached out to several companies and requested proposals for compensation studies. Really only one study, it seemed to capture what we requested. They have experience providing compensation studies for other public agencies, other cities in the region. Two of the compensation studies, they seemed a little unsure of being able to really produce what I was requesting. The range of the quotes on the low end came in at about $5,000. Again, that's one of the ones who were not really confident that they'd be able to produce what we needed. And even in the language of their contract, they mentioned if they can't locate three similar entities, then the data will not be valid. So that I'm hesitant about that one, to say the least. The other two were comparable in price. One came in around $16,000. That one, it would be specific, a specialized study. So they would go out and poll individual townships or municipalities of similar size and shape that we would like to include in the comparison. Clemens and Nelson study, they have experience doing this type of work. They were the middle of the pack. They came in at about $13,000 for the study. Again, this is, I looked into this per the request of the board. So at this point, I guess I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. And I'd be more than willing to answer any questions at this stage.
Questions from the board?
I do have some questions. So I think everyone needs to take a look at the quotes so that everyone can kind of get a view of that. But I guess what I'm looking at, the question I have high level is, what kind of data do we need as a board to make the decision? So is this the kind of thing where we're going to need a big, expensive report? Or is this like a NASA kind of study, or is this just enough to get us in the ballpark? Okay. Because a lot of times with compensation studies, which say, okay, so it's 18 positions. What I would imagine that would ever come, if we decide to outsource it or if we insource it, the way that you would do that is you would define what those 18 positions are, and then you would go out and perhaps talk to the different townships in our community. That probably, I think the comparable townships would be, say, Liberty Township, Westchester, maybe Ross. Down in Hamilton County, I'd want to pull data from Coleraine, probably Greene and Anderson Township. I would maybe in Warren, maybe Deerfield, Sycamore and Hamilton County would probably be pretty good too. Maybe a few up in Dayton as well, perhaps Washington Township. But I would imagine we would want to look for comparable studies. We'd want to get their job descriptions, and we would want to get those pay structures. I'd imagine that the next thing that they would be doing is they would take a look at those bands. They'd give us about what they pay for those different, maybe if they have 5 people in a particular classification, they would take a look at that. And they would say, all right, well, this is what we pay. And then you could take the ranges and you could calculate what that is. Is it, it would be sort of a bell curve, and we would be able to ascertain if they're mid-range, if they're in the 25th percentile, 75th percentile. And then we could take our data and we could extrapolate that across that and kind of see where we are market-wise. So that it's not a hard thing to do. It can be labor intensive, but I do think that at least the one thing that we do have here in Butler County anyways is we have good relationships with the other townships. So I think that there could be some other townships that might want to partner with us on, because I would imagine that they have a lot of the same issues and the same sort of struggles with that. So I guess some of the questions I have is has the OTA done anything like this? Has the OTA, do they have anything in their data? Are they maybe aware of other townships that have done this kind of work? I'd like to know about that. There's CLOUT, the Coalition of Large Urban Townships. Have they done any studies like this? And to that end, would this be something that they might want to partner with us on? Because this is potentially something, if CLOUT is comprised of the top 50 townships in the state of Ohio out of the 1,308 townships in existence, and we're, I think, 24th right now. So perhaps there's some synergies either with the OTA or with CLOUT, where there might be some data that's in existence, or perhaps we can partner with them on some of this, along with other townships potentially in Butler County. The Center of Local Government down, I think close to Cincinnati, they might have some data polls on this. I know we've pulled data from them before, but I think there might be some information that's already out there that we could pull and that we could look at and do this. So to that end, I'm curious. I think everyone needs to look at the quotes, and they need to see like how much it's going to cost, hourly rates, all of those things, so that we can understand what that is. Because if we were getting this information so that we as a board can make that decision, I think we need to have a good understanding of that. And then along with that, we need to think about what is our compensation strategy. So a lot of times in government, it used to be, I don't think it's necessarily that way now, but the pay wasn't as good, but the benefits were better. And I think that with the way benefits are today, it's hard to provide those benefits. It can be very expensive. So I think one of the things we've thought about in the past few years here in Fairfield Township is raising that pay. And I think having that total compensation package, that total compensation strategy is important to attract and retain employees. So I think this is, the 13,000 seems a bit high for me for that work. I think a few years ago, Doug Lanier did some data polls with this, and he came up with a pretty decent spreadsheet that had some of that information in it. So I think we need to think about this, gather some more information, see if there's some of that data that's already out there, and perhaps investigate if some of the other townships might want to partner with us on this too, because they have the same issues that we do.
If I can add something, when we do our collective bargaining negotiations, we ask SERB for information, and they have a list of comparable sized townships throughout the state. They give you what the police chief or fire chief of each is making, what the captain is making. They give you what all the entry levels are, the top levels, what the average. So we have that for the police and fire already. We use those for our negotiations. All we'd have to do is do a form letter, making a public records request to those same places. And if you picked whatever 15 or 18 or whatever it is positions you wanted, just do a form letter, change the address and send it out as a public record request. And we could get that information probably within a month for less than $1,000.
Yeah.
If you want me to do it though, I mean, that's
Right.
That's just something that occurred to me.
Yeah, I think some of the data might already be out there and they're required, if it's a public record, they have to generate that. So that's another thing with the survey piece of it. If a survey is sent out, it's a public record. And to that end, if any other townships have done similar work, if they've done any compensation studies, it might already be in existence and it's a public record.
I got a public records request a few months ago from Miami University asking for all that information.
Oh, so perhaps they have some, that would be a great follow-up too. Maybe Miami already has a study like this that we could draw upon too. That's great.
Was it Miami University or like a student at Miami University?
I think it was a student, but
So we couldn't ask him for the data.
no, but I think he was doing it maybe for the university because I have a friend that works at that university and she knew him and he was like maybe an intern or something. So I could get more information, but they asked me for exactly that. Like they gave me a list of titles and pay for those titles, and almost all of them fit exactly into our titles.
And they might even have that group up at Miami that does all of the township part. They might have, this might have been like a class project that someone did, and it might be something that's already, that they have up there in their center.
So that's a possibility.
That's the first place I'd start, Miami. They've got an excellent department up there.
Yeah.
And they would have resources. But I'm certainly not in favor of paying $13,000 to find out where our 8 or 9 employees, however many we have, where they fall with Westchester Township's, 75,000 people, or, that type of thing. So, but again, I think Miami's the right place to start.
Well, and I want to get, to your point too, I want to do some comparisons between the different townships and see where that all shakes out, see where we are comparative wise.
Yeah, I mean,
But we can do
OTA
it.
would have that too.
Yeah.
Looking for 25,000 people with their own fire and police department, zoning, whether they have it or not, and get some general information. And as the law director said, we can get all that.
SERB sounds like a good, yeah.
So who is the person that would request that? Who are we asking to get that information? Is that something that we
The administrator or the assistant administrator would be my guess.
would just ask?
We wouldn't have to ask the law director, although I know he gets that information just like he says when he's dealing with a contract with our employees.
Well, Mr. Goins and Ms. Von Haar, I'm happy to work with you to help formulate that plan. This is important work. I know that we have employees that have been here a long time that are grossly undercompensated and compared to other places, and I don't want to lose them to other townships or municipalities. I'd like to see those numbers and try to formulate a plan so we can bring it back to the board for some sort of approval. So can the three of us work on getting that information and having it available for the next meeting? Would that be okay?
Grossly unemployed, grossly underpaid. You have numbers you can back that up with? I mean,
Well,
let's start with our own.
sure.
Let's start with our
I
own
would say-
employees. Let me see a list of the
I know
money they made last year.
I'm aware of someone that's making like 25% less than a comparable employee. So
Really, 25% less working here, same position, same amount of experience.
Roughly 20.
Education.
between 23 and 25%, yes.
What
Well, I don't know about number of
department
years.
is that in? Is it
I'm
fire
sorry.
or police? Because really all we're talking about is the rest of the people, right?
Well, that's not our police officers or our firefighters. It's
Okay.
none of that. But it's something that I would like to have those exact numbers before giving them to you without having those exact.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get some data and see what it tells us.
Great. More discussion? Mrs. Vonderhaar?
Everyone is currently working on performance evaluations, typically raises to non-contractor given at the beginning of April. So I just wanted to bring that before the board and see where everyone stood and if there was anything you needed me to do.
So this is just talking about evaluations and what the normal raise has been.
And typically it follows whatever is in the contract, which I believe is 3, 3, and 3.
Okay. And so this is separate from the compensation study. It's
Correct.
just normal
Mm-hmm.
annual business that we do.
Correct.
Okay.
And I didn't want to spring it on the next meeting without bringing it to your attention or seeing maybe you don't want it on the next agenda. So looking for direction.
We usually do the first full pay period of April, so that would be the second pay date. So if you wanted time to discuss, it can wait till next meeting for actual approval. But Ms. Vonderhaar, like she said, wanted to bring it up this meeting so we could discuss, or you could approve it this meeting and we would have extra time in payroll, but that's up to you.
Okay. 'Cause we don't know what the study's going to show as well, right? Or
Well, I think we're going to do, I mean, we generally do the 3%. I would move, I have no problem approving the 3% because that does give parity with our contract employees. And I don't